Hey, welcome back once again. This is the first retro review video, um, and I will be reviewing this Jimmy Olsen one shot that came out in 2011. Cover dated May, went on sale on March 2011, and this actually collects a series of Jimmy Olsen backups that ran from Action Comics 893 through Action Comics 896. Uh, in fact, just the first four parts of the backup ran in Action Comics. The last three parts, because this is a seven-part story, are printed for the first time in this 80-page book. Um, so there was in this 80-page book. In fact, and we also get this little sketchbook with character designs and all. Um, so this backup actually, when it was announced, and I think it was announced, I think it was during the San Diego Comic Con of 2010 when it was announced. And it was announced because it it was supposed to be the big debut of the Chloe Sullivan character from Smallville, into the main DC universe. In fact, sorry about that. In fact, DC had bought the rights to the character a couple years earlier, but they really hadn't done anything with her until the backup. And after the backup, they really didn't do much with her either way. So it was pretty much the story, and that was it. Uh, so yeah, it was a very very big deal for the fans, but especially the Smallville fans, seeing these character come into the main DC universe, and um, you know, it's kind of funny actually that I decided to review this book this week because as anybody that reads Green Arrow knows that the legal character from the Arrow show series made his main DCU debut this week in the page in the last page of Green Arrow. you know uh, and of course we all know that characters that were born in other media and then coming into the comic books is not an unusual thing. Jimmy Olsen himself actually debuted originally in the radio program back in 1940. Though there was a very similar character that popped up once or twice, and it wasn't just Jimmy Olsen, it was, Perry White, the Daily Planet, um, that all made their first appearances on the radio show, and we know, of course, Harley Quinn, that debuted originally in the TV show, in the Batman animated series, also made her way into the main DC universe. And while, of course, this isn't Chloe Sullivan's first appearance on comics, you know, DC published way back, in the early 2000s, when Smallville was really starting out, the earlier seasons. They had first they published a 64-page one-shot, then a 48-page ongoing series or short-lived series that tied into Smallville. And of course, now we have the so Claudio was already part of that universe, and in comics, but not in the main DC universe. So the only currently, the only place you can actually find the character is in the season 11 series that's been currently published both digitally first and then the print version. But this was supposed to be her big debut. But outside of this story, she hasn't been seen since. But a completely different thing. You know, this story though is what I'm going to talk about. And I'll try to be brief, and I don't really want to give too much away. You should just, if you've seen the in your back issue, being pick it up because it's a fun book. That that's the thing about it is it's lighthearted. It does an homage to classic Jimmy Olsen, if you will. All his wild adventures are either referenced in a way, and the story itself finds Jimmy in a very you know similar situations, I guess. So the so it's a 7-part backup series, 7 parts, and like I said before, the first 4 were originally printed in Action Comics. And so the overall story really revolves around Jimmy trying to win Chloe back because she was Jimmy's girlfriend, and she breaks up with him in the very first story, and so throughout the rest of the book or the story, he is trying to win her back. But along the way, he encounters aliens. Has to deal with very pretty little imp from the fifth dimension. Uh, and the just trying to be a hero again. So it's a very fun book. I know, just in a very quick way, pretty much the discovered by Amanda kind of gives you an idea of what's going on inside the book. Besides Chloe, we have a new character introduced again just for this story because you really don't, you never really see this guy again, with who is Jimmy's rival. His name is Sebastian Mallory, and he has his own little logo, whatever. Uh, and he's Lex Luthor, Jimmy's Lex Luthor, if you will. In fact, he works at LexCorp, and he also has like a world dominating plan, which is rather ridiculous. The whole book is ridiculous. Like I said, he encounters aliens, but it's not an invasion. There's just a group of aliens come to Metropolis looking for a place where they can throw their like they call it their Independence Day party, which they celebrate every 4 years in a different location. Why? Because they pretty much destroy the planet they're celebrating on. You know, uh, so they kind of acting a little bit like crazy. These aliens, because as it turns out, the oxygen in our atmosphere makes them drunk. So they're pretty much drunk all the time. They just causing trouble. But if they actually party in Metropolis, they pretty much gonna destroy the world. So at first everybody was very happy that these aliens came. In fact, Jimmy Olsen and Sebastian Mallory, they are tasked by the mayor to kind of welcome the aliens and show them around. Uh, Chloe finds out about, they're getting drunk on oxygen, and they destroy every planet they've ever been to. So Jimmy comes up with a plan to uh, make Metropolis so boring that these aliens would just basically leave, which they do, by the way. So everybody's in on it. So everybody, they change, the billboard, calling, Metropolis the quietest. Let me see. Here we go. Check. You get bar fights, and so for example, they actually changed the sign here, where it says Metropolis is the quietest big city in the galaxy, and everybody's just doing very boring thing, flying kites and reading. Perry White, reads from his unpublished novel. uh you know uh Supergirl shows up, to spend a day with the alien princess, which is this alien girl here. A day of shopping, but at the yarn barn here, and her excitement, she's kind of excited at first, and when she finds out, the alien princess finds out, it's gonna be in the yarn barn, she's like very disappointed. And as it turns out, Supergirl does actually like knitting, and the the alien part is an incredibly a fun thing, the funniest part of the whole story. Um, After the aliens leave, uh, Jimmy Lois Lane actually gets Jimmy involved in one of those charity auctions where they auction off bachelors, for a good cause. Chloe's there, also being up to be beat on, and Mallory, who Chloe has been spending the whole week with Sebastian and Mallory for her column, but Mallory wants it's putting on the moves on Chloe. uh, and pretty much you can see it in the cover. The indifference, called indifference, he's making his moves. Uh, Actually does win the date with Chloe. Nobody bids on Jimmy. Then this mystery girl called Maggie shows up. Offers $1 million for Jimmy. So they kind of spend the day together. Here. And Jimmy, for example, as I said, this actually has a lot of homages to classic Jimmy Olsen stories. So, for example, they come across Invisible. This state here, for example, which I actually show, where Jimmy says, this is where I turn invisible. And, by an asteroid Superman found, and Lucy got pretty pissed at me about that one. Lucy Lane, and like she asked, Maggie asks, like, who's Lucy? Like, we don't talk about Lucy. Very funny stuff. And then they go to dinner, and she can start looking kind of so they're having dinner, and suddenly we learn that Maggie, it's actually Maggie Mixie something, Mixie Spitlick, if you will. Actually, you can hear it here. It's like You know, uh, so, Maggie makes his pit lick. When Chibi finds out, she's a name from the fifth dimension, kind of related to that troublesome imp. He freaks out, goes into the bathroom, you know, and when he comes out, there's like this whole entire alternate reality where Jim is actually marrying, uh, Maggie here. You know, like, oh my god, here, and it actually ends up, uh, you know, you know, get married. But it's a whole alternate reality where Jim is actually co-Superman, if you will. Again, you really get all these weird little homages to the classic Jimmy Olsen. So he's co-Superman now. He's beating up Doomsday here. You know, and not only is he's co-Superman, he's also the planet's top uh, journal reporter, because now Lois is the editor in chief. Pearl is a publisher. So he's the best reporter on the Daily Planet. You know, his rival Sebastian Mallory is in jail. Everything is going great until he once again meets up with casual. Meets up with Chloe. So things, the whole, what if stuff, what if, we didn't break up, and stuff like that goes on in, Jimmy's head, and then we learned, so, he gets to the city, but he decides, to kind of go back home and talk to Maggie about it, but, Maggie leaves, and he leaves him a letter, and after reading the letter, Jimmy decides, to go after, try to win, Chloe back. And, the last two, the last little arc, I guess, the last little two-part story, Jimmy goes to space. Um, you know, um, so he goes and visits Natasha Irons, steals John Henry Irons steals, niece, and has her convert the newsroom, if you recall that from the Silver Age, the flying newsroom, into a ship to go to space. So while Jim is heading up to space, Chloe finds out that Sebastian Mallory, who had bought the Superman the video game, was going to use it to take over the world by pretty much clogging the internet bandwidth and having everybody pay LexCorp for the internet service. That was his big plan, and I as a take over the world and like wow, it's like that's so evil, I mean, you kind of like lack something. So when Chloe hears it, says like it looks like a giant squid, and when Chloe tells Jimmy about it later, he's like, gee, it needs a little more anti-monitor in it, like it's not evil enough, it's like it's a lame take over the world plan, which is not very funny. So anyways, Jimmy goes off. Mallory, finds out that Jimmy is coming, so he shoots missiles at the flying newsroom. It blows up, so you have Jimmy floating in space. And in fact, that's where the story actually starts, with Jimmy floating in space as he was left off here. So pretty much a flashback story. We see him floating in space here, you know, here. So that's where the story really starts. So it's a flashback from the first 6 parts were part of a flashback, really, because it starts with Jimmy in space. So what to do? Jimmy is in danger. Earlier, and we can also see here in the cover, the alien girl, being drunk on oxygen, is flying her spaceship, crashes it into the daily planet globe, and but Jimmy had taken away the keys, uh, so he uses it to remotely call the spaceship. And here's a really so they had they couldn't move the spaceship, so they built the new planet globe around the ship. So when Jimmy calls it, it kind of breaks the new globe. Jimmy gets on the ship, crashes onto the space station. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this. Mallory owns a space station, and he took Chloe under on that space station. That's why Jimmy's in space in the first place. So anyways, he crashes onto the Mallory space station, but Chloe had already knocked Mallory out, and like I said, Chloe tells Jimmy about, this guy's evil plot to take over the world, and Jimmy in fact saves the day by pretty much hacking into the game, having everybody win the last level, opening a new level with really lame characters. And the funny thing about it is, this is a commentary on what had been going on with the Superman books, in the past few years. At that point, Superman books without Superman. You had the New Krypton saga, which didn't have Superman neither in action nor in Superman. The Superman book, you had Monel, but no Superman, and the book was called Superman. So pretty much the idea of the new level is here, which says Superman must live on a very important mission. Now select your new character. So they had Monel, Crypto, Lex Luthor, Alpha Centauri. Like, yeah, well, I have to get back to my life, cause who wants to play a Superman that game without Superman? So it's a commentary. You can't call a Superman book without Superman. So they're in the space station. So then Superman shows up at the very end, because as it turns out, Chloe actually also has a Superman emergency watch that actually works in the first place. So as they're heading down, Jimmy and Chloe talk about where they stand, and it's a very nice little romantic note, But it's a very funny story. You just get all of these wild adventures for Jimmy. Something that you might expect, in a Jimmy Olsen story, I guess. Like I said, there are homages here and there for the old Jimmy Olsen stories, the classic Jimmy Olsen stories from the Silver Age. You get a nice little ending here. Actually, the last caption, though, you know, uh, and I'll read it actually because I really like how it ends, and it just throws in all these, classic Jimmy Olsen references. And it says, "My name is Jimmy Olsen, and if you believe one thing I tell you, believe this. I've had a lot of adventures. I'm Superman's sidekick. I'm an award-winning photographer for the biggest newspaper on Earth. I saved the world more times than I can count. I've been to the future. I've been to every end of the universe, and then more universes on top of that. I've been a giant sea turtle, a werewolf, a bizarro, you name it. I've been everything really. And I'm in love with and I'm in love with this girl sitting next to me. She's my greatest adventure yet. And, it's a very nice little ending to a very fun story. So I highly recommend it. That look for this issue. You know, it originally cost $5.99. You might find it even cheaper in the back issue bins. But it's a fun little story. I highly recommend this book. you know um just get it. It it gives you a very very good fun story. I know it's really, and I think it's the sad part, to read the last fun thing DC published before the New 52, which, as we all know, it has gone a little bit darker, and you don't get these outlandish stories anymore from DC. I mean, people have been talking about the Superior's Foes of Spider-Man, which they say is a crazy fun book. This is last crazy fun book, and you know I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the when I originally read it as a backup in Action Comic. Getting the whole story and reading it in one sitting was even better for me. So yeah, you wanna have a good time? Yeah, it's a fun gym, pretty fun one-shot issue, and I wish DC would have done more, and I wish DC would have done more with the Chloe Sullivan character. I mean, this was her big debut. DC made a big deal about it, but besides that, 6 months later we got the new 52 coming, starting. Uh, so who knows? Maybe they'll bring the character back. You know, uh, she's already kind of been a part of the DC universe. DC actually owns the character, and you know her big debut in the in the regular DC universe at the time, was a big deal, and but it didn't much of it didn't really come out, you know. So anyways, I'm rambling here, so that means it's time to end this video. But until next time, keep smiling.